Hello and welcome back to the Chatter Cave podcast, where we talk media in the forms of discussions or reviews. I'm your host, Dragon King Thomas Hughes. I'm joined by the delightful Mr. Hold on for it. Wait for it. Zenny F underscore. I got it. Because yes, Mr. Connor O'Shea here has had another name change. If you didn't notice,
I think I finally went back. My first account didn't get hacked, so I had to change that.
Yeah, that was fair enough.
And I changed it to the gaming one, and then I thought, nah, I just shorten it down a bit.
Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, you can just call it Zenny, but easier.
Zenny.
The big Zenny.
Zenny F underscore.
Zenny F, boy.
Because I think the Phasmophobia video I put out the other day, which I put out a few days after I originally was going to put it out, that's the first one where you actually labelled it as Zenny F underscore.
Yeah, the new one.
So from that point onwards, that's you.
I'll rebrand again.
You rebrand again. That's like fair though. I would say it's your second rebranding, because technically you got fucked over with the first one anyway. So that's not your bad. That wasn't your bad. It's just you're using the same password for everything, which is a password with a capital P.
Yeah. Password 1.
Password 1, password 2, password 3. No one work computers. Oh, but yeah. So yes, we're here today discussing a topic that's kind of relevant at the moment because of within the last 2 weeks we've had 2 releases that have kind of been basically under this sort of category we're going to talk about. Which is obviously, why are game studios releasing unfinished games? Because obviously within the last few weeks we've had, well, we'll go with the most recent one first. Most recent was Redfall. Something that obviously you were looking forward to heavily. You showed me a lot of stuff and I was looking forward to it. I haven't actually touched it. You've actually touched it, so you can have a bit of insight here. But obviously it released of quite a few issues. Apparently the AI is really bad in it. It's programmed really shit.
Yeah, it's dumb as hell. Stupid. You can hide behind a box and they just can't get to you. It's ridiculous.
Apparently there's some bugs as well, is there? Or something?
I haven't played it probably long enough to experience many bugs, but the performance is dreadful. My PC can run most games at 60 FPS on high settings, and that even low settings, I'm getting 20 frames. So it just drops and it goes up. It's just the frames are so bad. So
yeah, and obviously then a week before this came out, we obviously had the more mass release, because obviously Redfall was more Xbox and PC, wasn't it? So we had the more mass release of Xbox, PlayStation, and PC with obviously Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Survivor, because obviously Jedi Fallen Order was the first one. But obviously that's something we brought up last week in the news segment about it being busted. So obviously that's another one we'll talk about here, is the fact that obviously, especially PC is the point of it needs multiple weeks of updates just to fix it, apparently.
It's just constant frame drops. Pretty sure people was complaining about getting constant 10 frames. It's it's unplayable.
I know, obviously, my experience with it, it's mainly crashing that I've experienced the Xbox version. So I've literally had the first time I had the crash. It's there's this mechanic within the game where basically your BD is less just of a scanning thing. It actually can shoot electric and do stuff to basically do puzzles. And there's the first time you get this, which is it shoots these purple blocks that basically, if you put it on this light, it set it on fire, and you have to kind of do a line to get it to a door frame to burn it open and stuff like that. If you did it too much, it would literally cause the game to crash. The game just couldn't handle it doing too much of these little blocks. The other times, one just randomly crashed when I looked away for 5 seconds, wasn't even doing anything. I was on the pause menu, crash. And another time, it was a mission where there's one save point. There's generally one save point for this mission. Well, one save point up to a part. You only get the second save point after you've done the first major cutscene, I think it is. But obviously up to that point you get no save, so you're kind of fucked. And I got a crash at that point on my second or third attempt to try and do it. So it fucked me over, and I had to go back, redo it all, and then hit save as quick as I could. The only problem with games like that, when it's save points are blotted around maps, is you're kind of fucked when there's a crash. Because at least
you have to stop back.
At least with normal games, like say God of War, you can just hit save, done. I'm safe. I'm fine. I'm fine. But games like that, you're kind of fucked. So that's the main things I've had. And obviously, I've noticed some like graphical like moments, like say like if I walked up to like a door or something and the door's gonna open, the texture of the door is all really weird. Like it'll look weird, and next minute it'll like fix itself to actually look like high end graphics. So it'll literally look like PlayStation 1 graphics, and then jump to like PlayStation 5 graphics, like that kind of like weird glitches.
Yeah.
And other things like with your cosmetics, obviously this game's added cosmetics to it. Like 'cause the first one, you can only really change the poncho. That was the different color ponchos. Whereas this one, obviously, you can fully customize BD, you can fully customize your lightsaber, you can fully customize your blaster, you can fully customize your stance, and you can fully customize Cal, so his entire outfit, beard, hair, you can customize it all. I've noticed, obviously, with that, because obviously my outfit's got a cape on it, I've noticed sometimes BD like glitches through the cape because it doesn't it doesn't know it's there, and obviously my lightsaber as well sticks up that much because the customization's on it. As soon as the cape goes over it, it kind of like glitches through the cape. Like
Flipping through everything.
like clipping moments, like stuff like that. I've noticed stuff like that. It's mainly the crashes that have bugged me, and the really tedious jump puzzles. But that's just me being shit at jump puzzles and getting really pissed off when it's like 20 times in. You're like, fuck's sake, fuck's sake, fuck's sake, fuck's sake, fuck's sake, jump, 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 jump. I haven't raged this much in it since. Actually, then again, Hi-Fi Rush. That was very like jumpy, fucking parrying type ones. That and this, I've raged so much during jump puzzles and moments where you like it's like frustrating. I've got to a point in the end where I'm like, fuck it, tutorial online. Okay, this is what you need to do. Even on like when I finish, I'm on story mode because I've knocked it down to the lowest difficulty just so I can get all the collectibles and just speed run it basically. Obviously, you can't do anything with jump puzzles with difficulty. Like the difficulty is literally just for combat.
Yeah,
it's just so you can glide through combat a lot easier. But literally, jump puzzles, even on story mode, are just the same difficulty no matter what you're doing. It's just so frustrating sometimes. But yeah, obviously, those games come out in the last couple of weeks, like literally like a week apart, and they both had major issues that have basically. I mean, Jedi Fallen Survivor has mixed reviews on Steam for its PC port, whereas Redfall has negative. I don't know if that's changed since it came out because I'm
pretty sure it's still negative.
Still negative. I was gonna say because when I first saw it, it was negative. I was like, that's not a great start. I don't even on like Metacritic, Jedi Survivor is like in the orange, which ain't too bad, but Redfall is like in the red, which is like not where you want to be for a game that is been delayed up to this point, wasn't it? 'Cause when was it due out originally?
Wasn't it like a month before or something? No. Oh, it's been, I don't know. Can't remember. I know it got delayed, but I can't remember when it got delayed from. Can't remember the original date.
Because obviously that's like Star Wars. Obviously that got delayed from March to April, which brings me to something I found online. It's an article. I'll give you the article title here. Star Wars Jedi Survivor director refused extra development time to avoid competition. So apparently, obviously they knew there was some issues, so they were like, okay, we want... This is from like an actual like, interview with him or something. Apparently, obviously they knew there was some issues. So they're like, okay, well, they went to obviously the company and was like, okay, we need to delay it a bit. And they're like, how long? And it says here, we need, I think it says 6 weeks at first. Where is it? I read it. It said something about, they said they need 6 weeks. Yeah. How much time? 6 weeks. Basically, April 28th when it came out.
Yeah.
And apparently the stress tested that date, because obviously they didn't want to basically another game to be at the same time. That basically would hinder sales. So obviously that's why they went with that. But then apparently they were given an option, or there was an option in general there to delay it again, to basically fix anything that needed to be fixed. And they went, no, we're sticking with 6 weeks. So we didn't have a competition from games like Zelda that were coming out. What, next week is Zelda out?
Something like that. But see, that's the problem though, because Zelda's such a huge title. I feel like it would take people away. But then again, I feel like most people if you're gonna buy one, you're gonna get the other anyway. Like most people are like, oh, I'll buy two. Not.
So, if
I don't know.
Think about it. Zelda came out. It's going to come out like middle of the month. Like even if like Star Wars delayed till the end of May, early June, I still think it would get decent sales. Because at the end of the day, it's where it's come out. Obviously, Redfall's come out straight after. But it's like, say, like a 2-week gap maybe before Zelda. So either way, it's still gonna get hindered. Why not just release 2 weeks? Like, it should have been delayed to make, because like I said, I don't think I brought it up in the podcast last week, but obviously I read not long before we started that they came out saying it needs like multiple weeks of like updates, like weeks and weeks of updates, just to actually fix this problem. That would have been hammered out if they added, say, an extra 6 weeks onto this release. Because I mean, if it was an extra 6 weeks, so obviously let me get my calendar up. Let me do a bit of math here. Do a bit of math. So obviously it came out Friday 28th. Extra 6 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4. It would have come out the 9th of June. Obviously Zelda, I believe it's due out around that week, so middle of May. So yeah, it would have been about 2-3 weeks after Zelda's release, and I still feel like it still would have done decent in sales. It would have. It would have got.
I feel like it would have done well anyway because it's totally different console. Like it's not releasing on the Switch anyway, so it's not competing for anything on the Switch. If someone's gonna buy Zelda, they're gonna buy it anyway because it's a totally different console to everything's releasing on.
It's like, because there's not any other game coming out I can think of on top of my head within the next so many weeks. Zelda is literally the only one that's coming to mind, and obviously, as you say, that is Switch exclusive. So it's not the case of, yeah, okay, it would have to compete a little bit because obviously people will be jumping on that, but not really, because a lot of people will be jumping on it straight away. Like a lot of like hardcore fans will be going for it straight away. You give a couple of weeks after that, you release your Star Wars game, people are still going to jump on it. Like for starters, it's Star Wars. You're telling me a Star Wars game isn't going to sell well?
So people who don't even play many games in general are like, oh, it's Star Wars, I'll buy that.
Exactly.
So,
especially like, if they've played the first one, they'll be like, okay, I'll jump on this one. They literally should have waited and released it maybe mid-June, I'd say. So at least then it could have hammered out all these problems. I mean, I put the console on today, and I've been playing, like, as I say, I've been free roaming. I've just been like collecting fish. Random side quests where you have to collect 12 different types of fish. Star Wars game, and you're doing fishing and gardening. That's the thing, innit? So obviously I was doing that, but before I can even get to that, I had like an almost 8 gig update. So I was waiting like, I was waiting like fucking ages for it to obviously update. So that's like what, a week after it come out, I've had an 8 gig update. That's just obviously the console version. I'm guessing the PC one's probably like a fucking 20 gig update.
Probably.
But still, if they waited, it's not just the case of, as you say, obviously it's just it's Star Wars, so people are going to buy it anyway. But obviously, it's the case of word of mouth. Because if you think about it, this has come out on PC and that. Not everyone's brought it straight away, for example. But the people who brought it have gone, oh no, it's fucked on PC. Don't touch it on PC. That's bad word of mouth. But yeah, if it come out, say mid-June, no problems. Maybe a few, obviously the clipping and whatnot, but that's not too bad. You can get away with that. Come out, people are going, great game. Nothing wrong with it really. That's good word of mouth. Then people are then going to jump on it and say, oh yeah, I'll pick it up. I'll grab it. But literally, people are just giving it bad mouth now because of its performance issues.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's not the first game to do this. Obviously, there's plenty of games that have released in bad states years past as well. Obviously, we just picked the two to start off with, are the two most recent ones. I mean, the Gotham Knights pretty much released quite fucked, didn't it?
I can't remember Gotham Knights really. To be fair, I don't remember much coming from it. I remember it being really empty. I don't know if it released performance-wise. Wasn't it locked at like 30 frames on like high-end consoles? And that's why people was complaining. I know they had quite a few issues with it. I don't think it was the level of these two, but I know there was issues and obviously story. Like people complaining about the story and crap like that. So I can't remember too much about that because I kind of skipped that one. Yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to get it, and then I saw all the stuff and was like, yeah, I'll probably leave that till it's like £5 or something on the sale. Like the cheap bin. When you used to go to the Blockbusters, you know, the bargain bins. But yeah, obviously I think the big one we're going to bring up obviously is Cyberpunk. That's like the big one. That's the one that I feel like really. No, it didn't start this trend, but it was the one that really solidified. Everyone was like, "Fucking, this is bullshit." Like, I feel like it was the biggest slap in the face. It definitely didn't start the trend because I can think of
plenty of games before this that had this issue. Oh, Last of Us, was another one that recently, the PC port of Last of Us.
Yeah, I think the last 3 big PC games to come out, obviously, you got Last of Us came out first, which is like PC's never had it. Came out, it's total mess. Obviously, you had Star Wars, total mess. And Redfall now is. See, Redfall performance-wise isn't the best, but I feel like it's just the most people's gripes with it is like the story's pretty shit so far that I've played, and the world's so empty for how big this world is. Plus, it's Arcane. People have made Dishonored, like these huge fucking games everyone loves, Prey, Dishonored, and they released like this game. So I look forward to it. I was like, oh man, Arcane releasing this. I was like, hell yeah, Dishonored's great. And then they released this, and I was like, okay.
So it's literally the last 3 big PC releases have been kind of bad. And I say, I can think of plenty more before Cyberpunk. Obviously, I say Cyberpunk's the one that very much solidified. Like at this point, okay, you had a few, but no one really like did a lot of complaining because it wasn't like anything big. Like there were issues with games, but there weren't like major. This game's broken completely kind of thing. But obviously, when Cyberpunk came out, that was the point of people were like, why the fuck are we paying? What I think Cyberpunk was pre like the massive like price jump for games. I think that's probably like the £50 mark. It's like people are like, why the fuck are we paying like £50 for a game that is physically unplayable? I know it was Star Wars. I think that was £60 plus. So and obviously Redfall was what 50, 60.
Pretty sure it's like 60, and then you got like the top edition, which is like almost 90.
Yeah, because most games released nowadays is £60, and then there's like the fucking extra editions on top of that. But it's very rare you get a £50 game. I think Cyberpunk was probably one of the big last ones that was like the £50 mark. But obviously that was another one that obviously I was reading obviously the stuff on it to Hayden. It was like obviously it was announced back in like the early 2010s with like this really like cinematic-y trailer, and then obviously the first like big sort of reveals like 2018 and 2019 at the E3 events, and
yeah.
I was reading through all the fucking release dates the game had. Like I mean, it was originally scheduled for I think it had about 4 release dates, 5 maybe off the top of my head.
It got delayed so many times.
So no, it was like it had a September release date, it had a November release date, it had a maybe like a July release date, and it had like a March release, like an April release date was its first one. So I remember because it was due out around my birthday, and I was like, sweet, I've got a game to play. And obviously then it got delayed till September, or it might have then been delayed till July time, but September, November, December. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think it was April, then it went to September, then it went to November, then it went to December. But obviously, then it's still released bad. But I think with the case of that, I think it was obviously where people finally had the stand on this is the fact that it's a big AAA game, and CD Projekt Red hadn't really obviously Witcher was their last game really. And
yeah.
they'd had plenty of time to make sure it came out right. Yeah, okay, they've come. It's basically working now. So okay, fair enough. They put the time in to fix the mess, but it's still the case of why did you release it in the first place? You're literally slapping people in the face and laughing at them as you're taking the money out the wallets because obviously it was a big game. Everyone was buying it.
I'm pretty sure it's the fastest selling game of all time.
Exactly, everyone was buying it. And yet they're refunding like everyone on consoles because the consoles were fucked. PC was runnable, but it was still like performance was dreadful. It was crashing. It was fucked. I mean, I only put like 2 hours. I think I've only put about 2 hours into the game since it come out. I know they fixed it now because I say Hayden's been playing it recently and she's finished it. But I'm literally like, I just can't be arsed. I lost the motivation. Like before it come out. I mean, that's another thing as well when games like this happen and it's like the case of it's kind of unplayable. Like, I feel like if it's playable enough, you still play it. But if it's like to an extent where it's like fucking you over constantly, it gets to a point of you then lose so much interest in wanting to even play it. Even like when they fix the game, it gets to a point of even years later, you're just like, I don't have any motivation to actually go back to this world and play it. My motivation was there before release, like, the build up to it, like, yes, I want to play this. It looks so good. But it's basically a fucking futuristic, better graphic GTA, essentially. And it's
went down the shitter.
And it just went. Obviously, as soon as it come out with everything bad about it, as it went down the shitter, and then like I lost all like bother with it. I mean, I update it. I think I played it the other week, but it was just like trying to get back into it. It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm not really feeling this at all. Like maybe if I
I
sat
think
down
I've
for hours.
restarted it like 5 times. I think I've restarted it, and every time I get so far, I'm like, I'm bored now. Just go off it. When it first came out, I mean, I tried to power through it, man. I tried to power through all the bugs and glitches, and I probably got about 10 hours in. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. But I think the biggest thing with that everyone complained about was obviously all the media and all the review outlets got to play the game early, but they had a build which was stable. They was able to play a game which, like, they released reviews being like, "Oh, this game's amazing, runs fine." And then we got the version that they released, and it was dreadful. It's like, well, hang on a minute, what about all this stuff that you promised and was added in, and it's totally gone after you delayed it for like over a year or something ridiculous? And it's like, I feel like with a lot of studios, biggest problem is they always announce titles too early. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna put a date on this game." It's like, just
I say,
announce it and don't put a date.
I say, just don't put a date. Just like announce the game. Say, it's coming within the next couple of years. I think that's the best way to say it. It's going to be here in the next few years. That means you don't have to worry too much, because at least then you've got like a couple of years to actually get it working. But as I say with Cyberpunk, they delayed it that much, and I feel like the fact that they delayed it so many times, that's what obviously got people like, okay, they're putting the effort in to make sure it works, but yet it still came out fucked. But yeah, a lot of these other games that do get delays come out working fine. I mean, God of War got delayed massively, didn't it? Didn't that got like a whole like year delay?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Because obviously it came out last year, which is 2022, and I think it was originally 2021 it was due out, wasn't it? And they went, no, we're going to delay it till next year, make sure it works fine. And it came out spotless. Fucking spotless. That's what Cyberpunk should have done. They shouldn't have given it a couple of months delay. They literally should have said, we're going to release this April 2021. Because it was obviously, it come out December 2020. So they literally should have gone, we're going to bring it out April 2021. Gives us a year to make sure everything's fine. Like, they even give her an exact date in April 2021. Like, literally, give the date a month or two before. Like, because you can literally say April 2021. It can literally be the point of when it gets close, it's like, okay, it's actually working fine. Start of April, it's coming out. Or we need a couple more weeks. End of April, it's coming out. Like that. They literally should not have delayed it within the same year. And then release it at that stage. Because I feel like when this happens as well, it's not just like a slap in the face of basically someone buying it, because it obviously pissing people off of the fact that they've spent like 50 quid, which is like, what nowadays, it's what, like fucking 5 hours work. That you have to work for like 5 hours to get that sort of money. That's 5 hours of your time that you're having to put into an actual job to get the money to pay for this, and you're basically being slapped in the face and going, ha, mine. But obviously, it's not just the case of that. It's also the fact of I completely lost my train of thought. I had a whole thing, and I got halfway through it, and I forgot my ending.
You're doing well. Come on.
I'm like a studio. I got halfway through it. I went, fuck it, that'll do. I literally forgot.
Just release it early. Go.
I forgot where I was going with this, honestly.
I'll go somewhere, and then you can come back if you remember.
Please do, because I completely forgot where I'm going with this conversation.
I think one of the biggest problems, obviously, with games coming out broken and delays and stuff, is when the game finally comes out and it is broken. You've got these people who are like, "Oh, they'll fix it. They'll fix it in a bit." Well, we shouldn't come out, and that's that. I mean, look at Resident Evil 4. That came out, and I had like one bug where I fell through the map in the entire time I played it, and I didn't even have an update once for that game. I downloaded the game and it run perfect from day one. I mean, you played it on Xbox, I played it on PC. I don't think you had any issues with it.
Nope, didn't have any issues whatsoever.
But then you got these games. I mean, obviously Cyberpunk's a big one. It had this massive ambition. The problem with that as well is obviously you said they released the first teaser trailer like years ago.
2013, I think it was. I read.
I think that, and then they tried to make it. They had like 9 years of development on this game, and in the end, it worked out. No, it was in like talks for like 7 years, and they only actually worked on it for like a few years. And it's like, well, why say you got 9 years? Like, but then again, which I feel like a lot of people forget about this, but when Witcher 3 first released, it was very fucking buggy. It was very broken as well. But then you got these people like, oh yeah, but that got fixed, so Cyberpunk could get fixed. It took them like a year to fix Cyberpunk fully. I mean, there's still some things now which aren't great, but it's another thing as well. They announced the DLC for it. But how much hope do you have for the DLC?
None. I mean,
I
I've
don't
lost
have
interest in the game, so I don't have any hope for the DLC at all. I know where I was going with the conversation there. It was the case of obviously them releasing it broken, then any further games that company releases a game, people are going to be so skeptical about. That's where I was going with it. Basically, you're basically risking your own. What's the word here I'm after? Like your own reputation. That's the word. Like to release a broken game, because I mean, what the CD Projekt Red announced, obviously they said the DLC for Cyberpunk. They've announced another Witcher game, haven't they?
Yeah, but I think they might have learned from the mistake and actually using Unreal Engine 5 instead of their own in-house engine, which is fucked now. I feel like it's too old.
But still, obviously they've got these two big things coming out. Obviously, a big DLC for a game that obviously, yes, it's got bad reputation at points, but it's got a lot of people still talking about. It's 2023 and we're still talking about it. And obviously, The Witcher, a big franchise. That's two big titles that people will probably still be a bit skeptical about because of this fuck up of one game. Like it's the case.
They've got to be careful with The Witcher as well, because it's a remake of the first one. It's not like a brand new Witcher title, so it's like people are already going to see stuff if it changes too much, or it's fucked. What's the point? This game already exists and it works fine.
Yeah.
Like, so.
But yeah, obviously, other games I can think of pre-Cyberpunk, Avengers. That's a big one.
Did that ever get fixed?
To an extent. To an extent that they basically kept it going for years and years, and then only recently have like finally like gone, like, that's it, we're doing no. We had this entire like whiteboard of like characters we were gonna add to this game, but no, we're done now. Bye.
I remember when the DLC came out, the Wakanda one, everyone was like, oh, it's actually really good now, and then they added more updates and it got really bad again. Everyone was like, what the fuck are they doing this for? Like,
I think I stopped playing it just before the Wakanda one, because I used to play it with Alex. I mean, I played it on our fucking joint channel we had for a while. I played it on there, and we still had quite a decent time. It's still quite fun, like especially when you got multiple people doing it. Obviously by yourself, I played it by myself, and it was all right. I wouldn't say it was the greatest thing in the world, but obviously when you got multiple people playing it, that's when it becomes a bit more fun, because obviously you can all like team up. And it's like, oh cool, we're basically the Avengers. You got me like running around as the Hulk, smashing stuff. You got Alex, I can't remember who played, maybe Iron Man or something, flying around blasting. I don't know. I can't remember who he played as, but obviously, you know what I mean? Like, it's fun when you got the more of it, because it's literally like, oh, wait, we're basically the Avengers. It's pretty cool. But obviously, I stopped before the Wakanda DLC. Obviously, the Wakanda DLC came out, and that had Christopher Judge in it as the voice of Black Panther.
Yeah.
And so that's when people start, oh, it's actually really good now. And I think I may have played a bit of it after that, but not actually the DLC. And then they added more DLCs, obviously adding like with Winter Soldier, they've added trying to think of other characters they've added.
Hawkeye, didn't they?
Hawkeye, obviously Kate Bishop. I think they added a couple more little things here and there. But obviously there's like a whole map of other characters that were gonna get added. So I mean, like, I think She-Hulk was one they were gonna add. Obviously the Mighty Thor they're gonna add. War Machine they were going to add. Like, there's so many characters. I mean, there's so much they could add to a game like that, but because of how bad it launched, that kind of affected it in the long run. Yeah, you still had some people, I say, when the Wakanda DLC come out going, okay, it's good now. You still have people that are skeptical and didn't bother jumping on it, so obviously it never really got the fan base that it could have got. So everyone kind of still stayed away from it. That's the problem when the release is kind of broken. Yeah, you still have like dedicated people sticking to it and be like, I want to see it through. I'll pay this money for this game. I want to see if it eventually works. But eventually, people just get bored and just move on. That's how it works. Like, there's plenty of other games out there that can jump on. I mean, they released like the Guardians of the Galaxy one like a year later, and everyone was like, "This is much better." Like, this is how the Avengers game should have run off the bat. What other ones can I think of? Assassin's Creed Unity is a big one.
Unity was fucked on release. Obviously, it kind of got fixed.
Yeah,
it's still a bit buggy.
I never played it on release because obviously that was the Xbox One title, wasn't it?
I literally bought it with the Xbox One when it first came out.
Because Rogue was the Xbox 360 title, wasn't it? Well, yeah, last gen title. Because
was it?
Yeah,
because they had Black Flag before Unity.
They did Black Flag, and then obviously they brought Unity, but at the same time as Unity, they brought out one for the old gen for people that didn't buy the Xbox One or PS4 at the time. So obviously you had Rogue, which was obviously the prequel to Assassin's Creed 3, but obviously set after Black Flag. Like, it was set in between, and that's when you're a Templar. But obviously, I never played Unity at launch because obviously I didn't get an Xbox for like another year or so. So obviously I stuck with Rogue. But when I eventually got the Xbox, I was like, okay, I'll pick up Unity now. I think I brought Syndicate at first, and I played through that. Then obviously I went back and went, oh wait, there's a game right before that as well. I forgot about Unity, and I picked that up for like what, maybe like £7. So I never really had any issues with it. But obviously, as I say, at launch, it was very negative. I remember it being quite obviously a bad launch for a game. I mean, I remember Rogue launching a lot better than that did, and that was like old gen. So
I've still got on my Xbox. You got like the captures.
Yeah.
I've still got from my Xbox One captures of Assassin's Creed Unity, and you got like, NPCs like falling through the floor, people floating along the screen. It's like fuck's sake.
The only one I can remember is like my character glitching out to a point of like he was like really fucked. But then again, I've had that with obviously Valhalla and like Odyssey, and that there's always like at least a little bit. But obviously, I remember Unity being like a really bad launch because obviously this was their first next gen Assassin's Creed. Because obviously, as I said, they released Rogue as I was going to say Rogue One, that's Star Wars. I remember releasing Rogue was obviously the final coup de grace for the old gen, but to allow people that still haven't brought the new consoles to still have a game to play. And obviously, as I say, Unity was their big first brand new game, and it just came out, and obviously it was heavily like regarded as awful. Like they offered so much that made people want to play it. Obviously, the co-op aspect, that was the one that people jumped at. Because I mean, multiplayer was always a thing. Like with Assassin's Creed, like was it Brotherhood onwards? Usually, multiplayer was like
when like competitive. Like you had one you had to. Someone was like Hyde and someone was like Assassin or
something stupid like. Cause I remember it being Brotherhood and Revelations. I think they had multiplayer. I can't remember 3 having it. I think they stopped after that. But obviously, those two had multiplayer aspect, and then they dropped it then. But then obviously this was the first one. Okay, we're gonna bring it back, but it's not the case of how it was before. This is more of you actually team up as an assassin, because obviously that's a big part of the trailer. Because obviously that's the thing. Cause you're a Brotherhood, so it makes sense a co-op aspect to Assassin's Creed. So that's what drew people in. But I said then it come out and it was just like, oh no, this is kind of bad because there's a lot of issues graphically, performance-wise. For the first big release of your franchise on this new gen, you fucked it. And Syndicate obviously brought it back a little bit, but it wasn't really till Origins that really brought Assassin's Creed heavily back in terms of positivity. So obviously Syndicate was pretty good, but Origins was the big rebuild, really.
It's like totally different. It's more RPG like leveling and stuff on it, but rather than like main story, I guess. You had a lot more side quests and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot more, and obviously then Ubisoft did the classic, hey, this worked, let's use it for the next 2 games.
Again. Like every Far Cry game that comes out after Far Cry 3. Well, Far Cry 3 did really well. Let's just try and do it again.
I'm trying to remember. I can't think of any other games that were fucked.
Do you know what game was absolutely fucked? And it's actually like, I'd probably put it as up there with some of my top games now.
What?
No Man's Sky.
Oh, yes, I was thinking of that about 5 minutes ago, but it's another thing that slipped my mind completely when I started talking about other stuff. But yes, No Man's Sky, a game that offered, again, a lot beforehand, and everyone was like, this sounds pretty cool, and it came out completely fucked. But fair play to the developers, they then took the time to actually fix it, because obviously, why did they release it broken? I can't remember.
As far as I know, there was loads of stuff behind the scenes of like they're showing stuff that wasn't actually in game. Like a lot of the cutscenes they're showing, like the gameplay was actually like pre-rendered, so it wasn't actually in the game and all this. And then obviously they set the expectations way too high. So when the game came out, and it was like nowhere near. I mean, you couldn't fly properly. There was another thing. They said multiplayer was a thing, but it'd be like really hard to find another player. But then people found the same point in the map, and there's no one there, so there's no multiplayer when it first came out. There's loads of things that were just promised and wasn't there. And then obviously, I remember the studio, was it Hello Games who made it?
I can't remember.
The studio is based in the UK, and people was going to the studio, and it was like abandoned, no one was there. It's really fucked up for ages, and then obviously all of a sudden started doing updates and like putting blogs and that, and it came back like huge, man. After like, I think it's like a year later, obviously loads of people's like, okay, people should probably go back to this game now. It's really fucking good. I mean, I bought it. I think I bought it on launch and I refunded it like straight away, and then I re-bought it again for like dirt cheap when it went on sale, and it's like 10 times better now than it was.
Yeah,
So.
I played a bit of it with James and Alex, I think, or maybe just James, and I remember it being pretty good. But no, I've never got around to going back to it. I want to get back to it because it was a core concept.
Oh, we have to play it. It's good, man. There's some new updates recently.
Maybe that's
Better
what
combat
maybe that's
stuff.
what we do on stream at one point.
It is good. It is good.
But yeah, it's just the case of what's the fucking point of releasing a broken ass game? Like you literally just, as I said earlier, you're literally just slapping people in the face. It's like you just if you're gonna delay it long enough to allow it to basically work, or else basically you're fucking your own reputation. You're pissing off everyone who's just paid all this money for it, and you're just basically wasting everyone's time. So it's just like, what's the point? It'd be as if GTA 5 released and it was completely just bad, especially with the hype behind it. Because I feel like with some games you can obviously these smaller games that you can sort of get away with it, but I mean specifically the AAA ones you can't, because they're the ones that the expectations are generally through the roof. People have played the previous games that these people have made. You know, it'd be like if the new Spider-Man game that's coming out this year releases and it's fucking bad after the last two that were really good. I know Miles had a couple of had a few issues in terms of graphical glitches, but it wasn't major. It was only really at 2 points. After that, it was fine. But it'd be like if basically after those two really good games, if this came out and basically was a Cyberpunk level of bad, you'd be like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
What the fuck?
You've literally just released two games that have been excellent. How can you basically then just go, okay, we're gonna now work a couple of years on this game and release it so you can't really play it? It's like there's plenty of games out there that you'll be looking at going, that better not release bad. I mean, I know it's been delayed because of there's a lot of people hating on certain things in it, but obviously it's thankful that the Suicide Squad game that's coming out has been delayed again into next year. Because I mean, is it next year? It's been delayed till now.
Pretty sure it's like next year, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously that was due out last year, wasn't it? And then it obviously got delayed to this year and got delayed again. So obviously, at least they're putting the actual effort into trying to salvage something from a game that everyone looked at and went, this looks shit. At least they're trying to salvage it. At least they haven't delayed it a couple of months and just released it as it is. At least they've actually gone, you know what? We'll next year. We'll try and fix this now. So at least they've actually put the effort into it. That's what Cyberpunk and a lot of these other games should have done. They should have said, okay, hold on. Either give us an extra couple of months or give us an entire year. I'd take the year rather than these constant delays. I'd literally take waiting the extra year to make sure it's right. Which is obviously what we said with God of War before that came out, the new one. We both said when it first got delayed, we were like, we're happy it got delayed, and we hope that's because there's a few issues and they want to fix it. We'd take an extra bit of a delay if it comes out perfect. There's plenty of games I can look at that I've loved the hell out of, and I'd take the waiting extra for. I mean, Wolf Among Us Series 2, that got delayed into next year, I think it was. And again, it annoyed me, but at the same time, I'm like, as long as it's perfect, there's no issues with it, I honestly couldn't give a shit if it's delayed. Just make sure it's worth my money is when it comes out, because I ain't spending 50 plus quid on a game that doesn't work. Simple as that.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
It's like I was saying the other day to D, it's crazy this year. Out of all the games that's released, Diablo 4 came out in beta, which is literally a test for the game, and it's run better than every game that I've played so far this year. It's literally a test for the game, and it runs better than all these other games. It makes no sense.
What would you do if it comes out fully then it's broke?
I'd be crying because I've booked time off for it.
I mean,
but I don't think it will, because obviously it's mainly built around PC first. But it's Diablo 3 did come out broke, to be fair, but that was more server problems rather than anything. I think that's why they're doing they've done 3 tests now. Obviously, they did the closed test for people who pre-ordered the game, then they did the open test, and now they're doing one more. I think it's called the server slam, and they're just trying to get as many people to log in. So they've actually got the server capacity for when it fully comes out.
It'd be like if Starfield releases and it's completely ass.
That's one game that I'm worried about now after Redfall, because obviously Bethesda's technically an Arcane was working on this together. Um, I mean, I can't remember his name, but he came out and he was like, "Oh, we're going to release whether Starfield's going to release with the 30 frames or 60 frames." It's like it's been delayed enough to release for 60 frames now, and if it's not just delayed again, just I mean, Bethesda have a fucking track record for releasing broken games. I mean, Fallout 4 came out and it's fucked. Fallout 76 was an absolute mess. Skyrim was broken to fuck when that first came out.
Yeah,
Uh,
Hayden brought that one up, and I was talking to her downstairs. She was like, "I make a reference Skyrim because that was broken when it came out."
one of the biggest games from, I think it was last year, was it last year or the year before, that came out and it absolutely ruined the reputation of the game, was Battlefield 2042.
Yes, I remember
That
that coming out and that
game,
being just bad.
even now after done all the updates, I've reinstalled it. I'm pretty sure it's like 2 months ago, and it still runs so bad. Like, I mean, to the point where I literally was like, "This is fucking shit. Like, why am I even trying to play this game? It's crap." Like half the buildings wasn't loading in. I had it on like the lowest graphic settings I could possibly go, and it still runs so bad. I was like, "This is dreadful, man." But then you obviously had the people competing for it, which was Call of Duty at the time. And as much as people hate on Call of Duty, at least it fucking ran. I feel that's the biggest thing Call of Duty. Yeah, it's just pretty much the same rehash each year, but at least it fucking runs. So
Yeah,
I can't really think of any of the big ones.
I can't really think of any more off the top of my head. But it's just a case of literally, if you don't think it's gonna basically come out and basically at least run to an extent, like you need to you need to basically run at least 90%. That 10% you can sort of get a leeway with, because that's something you can literally just quickly fix. Okay, we got an extra week. Fuck it. People probably aren't gonna get to this point or whatnot, or if it is, it's not gonna be like. You basically don't want it game breaking, essentially. Like, you need it to run and not be game breaking, like as Cyberpunk was, because Cyberpunk had a lot of glitches that were basically game breaking. I mean, Hayden was playing it the other day, and it's still, obviously, to say there's still some issues. Like, she was driving that fast, she hit something, and the game crashed. She crashed in game at a massive speed, and it caused the entire game to crash. Like, you need something that's basically not that. Like, you need something basically that won't cause the game to crash. You can get away with a couple of like maybe glitches here and there. Like I say, Resident Evil, there's a couple of like little glitches where you can sort of kind of cheat. Like you can get away with that.
I think.
But I mean, you can get away with that at launch. It's just that you don't want a game to come out and be completely fucked. Like I say, everything's breaking, the game's crashing. There's so many like visual fuck ups. You don't want a few little things. You just don't want it to be massive. So it's literally the case of if you find any one of these issues, don't release it. Like say, okay, we're not going to put a release date on this now. Give us like a month or two. We're going to see where we're at, and then we'll let you know if it's going to come out or not. It's as simple as that. Like, you don't even have to give a release date. You just take it off the board entirely and say, hold on, give us a month. We're going to have a tweak and whatnot, and then we'll give you an actual definitive release date. It's as simple as that, really, isn't it?
Well, it's like I'm trying to think of a game that's been announced but no release date, and the only one I can think of is the next Elder Scrolls. That's been announced fucking years ago. But the thing is, are they even working on that? Because Starfield's still coming out.
Yeah, so the question is, are they basically working on Starfield and then jumping onto that afterwards? If that's the case, it's going to be like quite a few more years before Elder Scrolls comes out.
I think what's crazy is you go back to like even PlayStation 3, and you used to buy a game, and the whole game would be on the disc. You could play everything on disc, and there might be a few glitches here and there, but it wouldn't be game breaking stuff. They literally polished the game. And then obviously when more people connect to the internet, because obviously PlayStation 2, not many people went online with it. PlayStation 3, more people went online, same as the Xbox 360. That's when they started just patching stuff like, oh, we can patch these little things. And every year, because they've been able to, more people online, these better broadband or better internet connection, every generation of console it goes up, or every like big PC leave, there seems to be these like companies where they're like, oh, we can patch this after it's released. And that's the mentality of customers now. It's like the amount of people I've seen the comments for Redfall being like, oh, but it can be fixed. It's like, yeah, but it shouldn't be the point. It should already be fixed.
Exactly.
Like,
It shouldn't be.
I don't understand.
It shouldn't be the case of you can sit there and go, yeah, it's going to be fixed. That shouldn't be in your mindset. It literally from the get go should be, it should work 100%. You might be okay with a couple of little issues, which then you can say, okay, that's something they can actually probably fix in the next patch. But a lot of these sort of bigger issues, that shouldn't be your mindset of, oh no, I'll fix that. Give them a couple of weeks and I'll have that fixed. You shouldn't be thinking that from launch. You literally should be getting it and being like, it works, it's fine. I've noticed a little tiny thing, then obviously that will probably get fixed in a patch. But in terms of like a lot of these big sort of issues with, let's say, with Redfall, some of these bigger issues, you shouldn't have the mindset once you've paid the money for it of, oh, this game's kind of broken. Oh, it's okay, they'll fix that after. You should never have that mindset. It's like, I say, with Cyberpunk when that came out and it was broke. Obviously, a lot of people, I never once heard anyone say, oh, they'll fix that later. Because that's not your mentality. It's the outrage of, why the fuck are you releasing this game? Don't release it if it's not going to work, or if it's not going to be above, basically, a line, essentially. Because all these releases at the moment are kind of below a line. They need to be above the line. And these little tiny issues that aren't game-breaking or completely fucking bullshit issues, that you can then physically say, okay, they'll fix these over time. These are something that they'll fix over time. Not literally, oh, it's not working properly. Oh, they'll fix it. It's fine. It'll be fine. They'll fix it soon. You should never have
My
that
biggest
mindset.
my biggest hate recently is these, like, every time they release like a game, put like a little post out being like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We're gonna work to fix this." Like, what? Why now? Like, what? You clearly had delays already. Just delay it again.
Exactly.
Like, but then again, you got investors and parent companies who are like, "No, we want it out now. We've got all these pre-orders. We need it out now." I think that's the biggest problem. But then again, like you said earlier with the Star Wars one, didn't he refused extra time, even
It
though
was allowed
he
extra.
could have had it.
Exactly. So it is a problem with obviously investors and people above the company, but it's still the case of, you should be able to fight to say, okay, you release this, people are going to buy it, but we're going to have to refund a lot of this back. Like, you're not actually going to get anything from now, but you delay it about 4 or 5 more months, and you're going to get that money from the get go, and there's got to be no complaints. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
They should be fighting to have this extra time to make sure it's polished. You know what I mean? It's
There's
just
just so much, like, it baffles me. It's like, obviously a lot of people with Redfall blaming Xbox, saying it's Xbox's fault, or Microsoft being like, "Oh, they've pushed this game out and stuff." And is it Phil Spencer who's the head of Xbox? I'm pretty sure he came out or something and was like, we had literally no say in the release of this game. Like, when we bought Bethesda and stuff, after the fact this game was already in development, they was already making this game when we brought them out. We've just let them run with it. So, I mean, it came, obviously when it came out, people bought physical editions. They literally had to put a sticker on the back of the box saying, "Game blocked at 30 frames per second, will be patched after launch." And actually on the box itself, the actual box says 60 frames per second. Surely that shows you should be delaying this game until it's actually ready to show what's advertised. I don't understand how you can be like, "Oh, it's a full release, but it's not out yet." That's why a lot of indie games do really well, because obviously they're releasing early access and they say to people like, "Okay, this is like the early version of the game," and half the time they still work better than these full
exactly.
AAA.
I've played plenty of early access games that, as I say, have run so much better than, as I say, a proper full AAA game on release. Like, that's the bullshit thing. It's just it's just baffling how they can allow, like, they've got to see all these issues before it launches. They've got to see it, so it just baffles me. I guess it baffles you as well, that it's allowed to still go further through into release. It just shouldn't. There should be like a smack around back of the head, like, what the fuck are you releasing here? Don't release this. Here you go. Here's an extra couple of months. Just get it working. Like, as I said earlier, and I think you said as well, just don't put an actual release date on it. Just give the year. Just say, we're going to release it in 2024. Like, we've been working on this game for quite a while. We think it should be due out early 2024, but we're not 100% sure, so we're just going to label it as 2024. And when it hits 2024, or close enough where we're like, okay, no, it's actually perfect. There's no issues whatsoever. We've beta tested it. We've done everything to it. It's fine. That's when we can start looking at, here's our release date. I don't know. August the 5th, 2024. I don't know. It's just a random date off the top of my head. If a game comes out then, I've predicted it. It doesn't matter what game, I've predicted it.
So
it's just baffling.
I think that's another problem with obviously single player games that are releasing, and like maybe co-op games. With multiplayer games, you can do like an online beta test, like Call of Duty did beta test. Obviously, Diablo's running it. Battlefield didn't do one where they should have. Actually, I think they might have done a beta tester. And I was pretty sure it still run like shit then. It was like, oh, we're going to fix this stuff. And then there was like,
Never did.
oh, yeah, they did. They did a beta test and they said it's running on a previous version of the final build. That's why it's running bad. And then they released the full game and it's the exact same as the beta. And everyone was like, this is just bollocks. But obviously, with single player games, you can't really put a test out because you'll be ruining the game.
Yeah.
Unless they did like a test area and was like, okay, this is just like an open world area, just you can run around and enjoy some of the combat. That'd be the only way they can alleviate some of this like stuff because they can test it then. Obviously, I understand more with PC of having some issues because every PC has different hardware,
Yeah.
whereas every console's the same. It's like, so my PC, even though I know your PC is pretty much identical to mine, might have some slight performance differences here and there, but it's like someone with a top rig PC with like a 4080 Ti, whatever it is now, it's like they're clearly going to have, well, should have better frames than we have, but
They're getting the exact
I don't
same.
know. I don't know if game companies are gonna, because people with the top graphics cards and the top like spec PC, they're probably in the 1%. So what do they base the games around? People in the lower percent? Because I know on Steam, I'm pretty sure even now, graphics card now being, we've had it for like what, 5 years? I think it's been out for like 6 years now,
Oh,
2017 or
something
whatever.
stupid like that. I know our
We're
PCs are
still in
about
like a,
Our PCs are about 2 years old, aren't they?
yeah, we're still in like a really high percent of like top PCs because most people don't run on new hardware. They try and stick with the old stuff. It's like it's gonna sound stupid again because the amount of times I've gone back to this game. I'm literally started playing World of Warcraft again. I'm playing World of Warcraft Classic, and I think the install download size was like 6 gig, but the world's massive, and it's like you got all these people online on this world. It's like it's 5 gig, and I've had no issues ever since I played World of Warcraft. I don't think I've had any really major issues with it. But then you got these AAA games that have like a small base world. Like even if they're open world, it's still small compared to some of these huge
Yeah.
games, and it runs like shit. It's like what the fuck. It's like obviously Redfall's the new one that's come out. There's two. I'm pretty sure there's two islands. Once you finish the first one, you move on to the second one, and most people haven't even got to the second one because they've given up
On the
way
first
before them
one.
because how dead the world is on the first one. I mean, you're running around and it's just like empty. You find like big empty things, or like buildings that you can't even go inside and stuff. It's like, well, how is this open? I can't even go inside this building. Like, I don't know. There's so many stupid things that they should have took time with. But yeah, they need to delay more, or if not delay, just fucking stop announcing games so early. Stop announcing them like 3 years before you even gonna release them,
That's like, I
and
mean,
then it's gonna come out.
look at Dead Island 2, for example. Obviously, that got announced years and years ago, and obviously that kind of got fucked up, and it kind of went like, I know this game's dead, and then out of nowhere they're like, I know we're doing it again, like, and that was like what, about 2 years ago, maybe a year or so ago. Like they announced.
I can't believe that game came out without being absolutely
I
broken.
know.
I thought it
That's what
would
I
have been
mean.
a mess.
That's a fine example of a game that obviously announced years ago, and they actually obviously it fucked up obviously very early on, and they scrapped it. And we're like, okay, no, we're rebuilding it ground up, and they worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. Then finally announced it. Like they announced it like, oh, we've actually been working on this for a couple of years now to actually get it rebuilding it and get it to a standard where it's going to be working fine. And obviously it come out what, a couple of weeks ago. I'm yet to pick it up. I kind of want to because obviously I think there's co-op on it, isn't there?
I'm waiting for a bit of a sale.
Yeah, that's
I
what I mean.
want to play it, but I don't think it's one of them games I'm like, oh, I really want it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm
I mean,
waiting.
I'm waiting for the sale on it as well. But it's still the case of the game came out, and you didn't hear that much bad about it. Like,
I think the only bad I heard about it was maybe some of the dialogue. That was it.
that's it. That you can accept. It's literally if someone said to me, "Oh, this game's come out. Oh, this is a bit of bad dialogue." You're not gonna jump up and go, "Oh, that's shit." Then is it? Whereas if you said to me Redfall, you come up to me with all these like things that are issues of it, like same with Star Wars and obviously Last of Us. I'm literally gonna go, "Okay, I'm not gonna buy it. Then am I? I'm not gonna touch it." I mean, with Redfall, yeah, it's Game Pass, so I can get it for nothing. Because I forgot my Game Pass and it auto, renewed. I completely forgot. I was like, "Fuck." And obviously, I could obviously get it for free, but I'm not interested in it at its current state. Whereas I say with Dead Island 2, yeah, it's a case of I don't really want to pay that much money to play it, but I'm still kind of interested in picking it up. I'm more interested in picking that game up than Redfall, and Redfall's one that I've been interested in since you've really showed me it. So
I think that's the biggest thing, man. Is like they showed so much like this. Oh, they always like manipulate, but obviously these trailers he had all this like, oh, it's like kind of open world. You had all these four people working together. You seem like quite fast paced, and you play the game. It's like, fuck, man. Like the AI's brain dead. Like I'm standing behind a cardboard box, and this fucking the vampire's just standing right in front of me, not being able to get me. It's like, what's going on? The only ones that kind of do anything is like the soldier guys who shoot you. But even then, you can kind of run up to them, and the AI just messes up.
it's just baffling, isn't it? It's just baffling. It's the easiest way to sum it up. It's just baffling how it's like allowed to actually still get released when they
I don't.
they can
I
clearly
don't even
probably
think they've
see it.
said anything yet.
They can
I don't
clearly
think
probably
they've even
see
came
it
out.
in like testing when they're testing it themselves. They can probably see these problems. So it still baffles me that they go, okay, no, we'll still release it. See if it still gets like by. Like it should still be the case if they see it and be like, no, delay this. This needs to be delayed a bit longer. We need an extra couple of months to work on this to make sure it's at least to a point. And then, as you can say, the little tiny issues. That's when you can look at, okay, we can fix that in post. But as long as it's literally at 90%, it's fine. That extra 10% we can sort of just get away with over time. Because most games are like that anyway. Most games is that 10% anyway that over time it is going to get fixed. But you still need to release that 90%. You can't be releasing a game at, 50%, can you really? 60%? You can't be leaving like 40%, 50% unfinished. That's the baffling. It's just baffling. Ugh. Yeah,
I think for Redfall as well, one big thing that put me off was before the game even released, they told reviewers they couldn't release the reviews until like an hour before the game launched. I think that's a
that's
big telling sign
yeah,
that like, okay, if you can't release reviews, like if you was a viewer and you played the game like a week early, why can't you release a review that you played then? I played a week early build, and there was like, no, you can't release it until an hour before the game comes out. And I remember apparently the timing was really confusing on the thing, and like a few companies accidentally released it like 12 hours earlier, and there's like getting like I think there's like legal trouble now with it, and some they had to like take it down or like whatever. But when the reviews came out, it was really low. It was like, like 4 out of 10
yeah.
and stuff, and it was like, oh shit, this game's going to be dreadful. And I think a lot of people probably saw that and was like, well, I'm going to refund it, and that's why they tried to block it an hour before the game came out, which is stupid. How can you watch?
So
If you,
that's
it's just very stupid.
that's instant red flags as soon as someone says that. I mean, usually a game, it's usually a couple of days. You get the reviews a few days before, don't you? Usually,
Yeah.
a few days to a week before. Like it's the same with movies, really. You usually get it a few days to a week before. It's usually a few days before a movie comes out that you start getting reviews. I mean, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the reviews of that started to come out, I think, the weekend just gone. And it came out for us in the UK Wednesday, and obviously America comes out Friday. So the reviews have been out for a week, so people can clearly see it's like an 80% out of 100 movie, which I disagree. It's 100% out of 100 movie. It's so fucking good. But like you've had like a good week of seeing these reviews, but obviously as soon as you say what you just said about, they said no, you have to wait an hour before a game release. That's the red flag right there for me. That's a red flag,
Yeah.
instant red flag. Just some studios are just dumb, and it just baffles me. All this allows to happen. It's just it's like they don't give a shit about the consumer. Simple as that. They just
Well,
don't give a shit about the
that's
consumer.
100% what it is. It's just like they're trying to push this game out, people buy it, and then they're kind of stuck with it, and then they're like, oh, we'll fix it now, instead of taking the time to just sit there and fix it in studio or
It's just
whatever.
studios straight up arseholes. Anyway, I think we could talk about this for ages and ages. I mean, we're just babbling on about just everything now. But yeah, so obviously one thing I've been wanting to do each time, let's see if I can get it up. For the last like few videos since you've been back, is obviously a question from Hayden. I keep forgetting to get
Okay.
one, but this time when she started talking about obviously Skyrim also being fucked, she started trying to give me a question. I went, okay, write the question down on my phone. Don't show me the question. So this is brand new to me. Hopefully we haven't already answered it within this talk. So obviously this is her question. So she said, would you rather a perfectly running game that's been delayed for a while but the story is bland, or a game that's buggy on release but has a really interesting story? Oh, that's a good one. Would you rather have a game running perfectly, and obviously it's been delayed multiple times. It's been delayed to make it sure it runs perfectly, but its story is bland, or would you rather a game come out buggy, but it's actually got a really interesting story?
Neither. Destroy them both. That'd be like releasing God of War, perfectly fine, but the story's ass.
But
That'd
if you had
ruin
to,
the game.
but if you had to pick one, what would you pick? Good performance, bland story, or bad performance, good story.
Would depend on what type of game it was. In more single player game, obviously I'd probably choose the better story and maybe slightly worse performance. But if it is like a multiplayer game, I'm gonna fuck the story. I don't care. I feel like it depends. Oh god, that's a hard one because that shouldn't be the point.
She was definitely giving me a different question when she was reading it out loud to me, and then when I gave it to write down, she's clearly changed her question. That is it's a confusing one because I'm more story based, so obviously I'd want the good story, but if it's buggy as hell, I'd say it depends on how buggy. I'd say if it's buggy to like a game breaking buggy like Cyberpunk, then I'd probably just have to go with a good like the non buggy game with a bland story. But if it's like the case of, you know, a couple of little things like how, obviously how Star Wars is for me on Xbox, like buggy is in, it's just like a crash every day, like a couple of crashes over the course of like a 27-hour playthrough, like I think I've had it four crashes over about almost a 30-hour playthrough, which ain't too bad really. If it was something like that, then I'd probably go with the buggy but really interesting story. So I think it just depends on like how buggy.
Could you imagine if you bought God of War, and then it ran like Cyberpunk did on release? You're telling me that wouldn't put a bad taste in your mouth after all that time?
Oh, obviously, then I'd
That'd be the worst. That'd be the worst. Even if the story, even though the story's amazing, it pissed me off to the extent where I wouldn't. I'd hate the game.
That's what I mean. It just depends on how buggy you're talking. If it's like a little buggy, then you can sort of get away. But if it's Cyberpunk buggy, then I'd definitely jump more at the really basically perfect performance with just a story. I'd jump at that. But
see, this is the thing. This is the other thing as well. With a good story and bad performance can be fixed, but story can't be changed. They can't go back and redo the entire story once the game's out.
So it just depends on how fucked the game is. I say I agree to say like if God of War came out like Cyberpunk, then that's a really bad. Then I would stay away from it so much, and I'd literally probably find anything else that runs, even if I think it's I'd go to anything else just to give myself something to do. But I say if it's just like something minor that you can deal with, and you say like one patch and it's this little problem that's not massive is gone, then I'd probably go with the buggy option. It just depends. I think it's just one of those ones. It just depends on like how buggy you're talking. So that's a difficult one. So as I say, it just depends how buggy we're talking.
That's a trick question.
It's a trick question. The answer is neither.
The answer is press the refund button.
It is a trick question because the answer is fucking actually just get a fucking your game working, you arseholes. That's it. Yeah.
Just get the game working.
She definitely. When I speak to her later, she'll definitely be like, "No, it's not a trick question. What's the actual answer?" But no, it's a fucking trick question. But yeah, no. Obviously, it does depend. Obviously, in terms of how buggy you're talking, but I say it kind of seems more like a trick question of no, just make sure your game's working fine. If you're going for a really good story game, make sure it's fucking working fine. You don't want these issues. It's as simple as that. Any news you can think of to undersay it?
I got a bit of news. Is it the Asus ROG that's coming out soon? Asus ROG Ally, which is like the big competitor to Steam Deck. It comes out in May. I'm pretty sure the pre-orders are already available, but it's 1080p, and it like apparently runs like double what Steam Deck's running. And when you dock it, it's got a graphics card in the dock, so it literally gets like performance like a computer would on like docked mode.
I've honestly never heard of this. I must have been living under a rock for the past 5 years.
So I think it's coming out at like $600 for like the basic edition, but obviously it's a lot more powerful and it looks, to be fair, it does look pretty sexy. But I'm pretty sure Microsoft are kind of working with them to make like interfaces and stuff. So I'm guessing it's like you know how Steam Deck's kind of locked into Steam unless you mod it. But this is like you can access Steam, you can access Game Pass, you can get to like a lot of stuff on it. Like it's basically a PC, portable
Yeah.
PC. It does look good. I've got a bit of monkey news.
Oh, monkey news. This is what we're
It
after.
is a year old, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I heard it the other day. Apparently in India there was a dog that killed like a baby monkey, and there's two monkeys that like saw it, and they literally went around killing like hundreds of dogs. Like they literally like got like a revenge complex and was just murdering dogs all over India. It's insane. I thought it was interesting to the fact of like this animal saw something happen and just ran like a revenge spree
What the
in the
fuck?
middle of India. Two monkeys, I think they killed over 120 dogs.
Basically, the monkeys turned to John Wick.
He says the villagers claim the monkeys were carrying out revenge killings after the dogs killed the infant monkey. At least 250 dogs have been killed so far.
These
That's by
monkeys.
two monkeys.
These monkeys are basically John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick monkeys, crazy.
John Wick monkeys. Do you reckon their currency is bananas? So the coins, the Continentals, bananas. I'd like a room, please. Definitely, sir. Jeffrey, stop eating a banana.
Someone in the Indian media said it's promoting monkey versus dogs gang war. For God's sake.
I got some monkey news.
Go on then.
There's monkeys in the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Talking monkeys.
I think was there some. I know there's animal hybrids. I can't remember if there's a talking monkey, but I know there's like little monkeys. There's a funny scene with monkeys when they're trying to like escape, and like this monkey basically like tears some woman's face apart. I'm not going to go into spoilers because obviously it spoils what's going on with this like massive sequence. But it's literally a scene where you're sitting there and it just happens. And I remember Hayden was looking at me like, "What the fuck? Did I just see that?" Like it's like a really like serious moment. This monkey just tears this woman's face, like proper fucking scratches this woman's face to shit, man. I was like, "What the fuck?" But obviously in movie news, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy has just been released. Obviously in the UK got it on Wednesday, whereas obviously some other countries also get it. Obviously. Wednesday the 3rd, and obviously some countries got the 4th, and obviously America and a lot of other countries 5th onwards. I say it come out to what an 80% rating on Rotten Tomatoes in terms of critics. Audience don't get released till America's had it. That's what because obviously Rotten Tomatoes is an American company, so obviously when America get it, that's when it gets released audience reviews. But I say at the moment critically it's 80%, and as I say I watched it first showing of the day. I had to get out of bed at fucking like 8 o'clock in the morning, get down to Warsaw. Loiter around for her to finish work. I mean, I was walking in B&M for about 10 minutes, looking like a possible shoplifter. Don't you just loitering around, just like looking at your phone, like fucking hell, come on. I was loitering, man. I happened if they caught me on camera, they're looking at me going, man, this guy looks like a right shoplifter. Just because I was like lingering back around certain areas over and over again, and just talking to myself, like, oh no, wrong aisle. Like I had to linger for about 15 minutes in B&M, man, and then she come walking in. I was like, thank fuck. I was like wandering around, but yeah, obviously went down to like a 10:15 in the morning showing. I think we got in there for about 10:20, so it's about 5 minutes late. And I say 2.5 hour film. I think we got out there for about just after 1, and just a blast. We had a blast watching it. It's so funny. It's so sad. It's so dark. Like action packed. Like it's so fucking good. There's a few things that we would have liked to have seen, but weren't there. But we were okay with not being there. But honestly, it's so good. It's easily the best Guardians of the Galaxy movie to date. It's a great. It's a great send off basically, because obviously it's there for now. The last of this Guardians team. So obviously they are like obviously setting up for possible other Guardians teams, because there are other Guardians teams in the comics and other media. So obviously it is hinting towards that. So obviously this is the last for this Guardians that we've seen throughout the trilogy, and obviously the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame duology. But for the last one for them, it's definitely a great send off. Like it captures everything from the first two. There's so many references to the first two movies. It just captures the magic of them and just combines it into a epic movie. It's so fun. Like the villain is so basically twisted. Like he's very simple in terms of like. I find that with like the most of the Guardians ones, they haven't been like heavily over the top like most Marvel ones. They've been a bit more grounded. Like their ambitions are very dark. They're not like essentially like just take over the world. I mean, Ronan in the first one was just like if he gets this stone, he's basically just going to destroy like this entire planet. Like, he's not taking over the world, he's going to vaporize a planet. Obviously, Ego is the case of he's literally taking over planets and basically making them basically his bitch, essentially. Basically fucks someone on the planet and then just takes over it. Like, yeah, he's kind of taking over like the world, but he's like his whole plan is literally just to bang people on the planet and then just take over it that way. And obviously, then this guy's literally like he wants to recreate everything to his standards. Like, it's essentially like if you've got ADHD, and you don't like something. He's essentially like going, I don't know, this mic here. I'm gonna rearrange it and put it here. It's essentially like that. He's gonna rebuild this and rebuild it here, but in his own image of, I don't know, the light's blue now or something. That's why he's a whole planet of like animal hybrids, like that were in the trailer. So it's stuff like that. So it's a bit different to just like straight up domination. It's like he's rebuilding the world from the ground up. Essentially, it's a different kind of villain, and he's quite different in terms of personality. So he's kind of at points like he's really serious, and at other points he's a bit like kooky. He kind of reminds me of Christian Bale in Fall of Thunder at times. Like, he can just like snap in terms of his personality, going from really dark to basically quite humorous. Like, there's literally a scene of him like being really serious, and then next minute he's trying to find like a rocket when he's like in his lab. But he's like, it seems like he's drunk and he's like crawling on the floor, going, "Where are you?" Like, it's quite funny like that. So it's a weird personality. But yeah, that came out. I think that's the only film that's really come out in this past few days. But I know trailer wise, you've had the trailer drop for Doom Part 2, which is filmed like entirely in IMAX. Like, they filmed the entirety of this Part 2 in IMAX. So the first one was partially IMAX, I think. But this one, the entire movie, pure IMAX. And like,
yeah, I did read that. Yeah,
the trailer looks quite good. To be fair, I mean, there's a scene where he's riding the worm in the trailer, like the sandworm in Dune. He's literally riding that in the sand, which looks pretty sick. To be fair, I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested. I thought the first one was okay. I wouldn't say it was like as great as a lot of people said it was, but it was okay. But I was looking at this, I was like, yeah, I need to see this. I need to see that scene specifically in cinema, like him just fucking surfing the fucking worm. I can't think of any other trailers that really dropped. Midnight Suns dropped the trailer for the final DLC. Obviously, the Storm DLC, or Bloodstorm as they're calling it. But other than that, I've not really seen anything really. I know there's little trailers been released here and there for Zelda, because obviously that's literally around the corner.
yeah, very soon.
But other than that, I haven't really seen anything really drop in terms of trailers that have really like blew me away. Most trailers were literally for the last podcast, like, because I had so many good ones for that one. But this one's just been like Dune, really. That's it. I can't really think of anything on the top of my head that blew me socks off. And I can't
I can't even think of any games or anything that's coming out soon other than Diablo, but that's already had all these trailers come out.
The only other bit of news I can think of is that series Sweet Tooth, which I still need to watch series 2. They announced that they're doing a third series, and it's the last series. That one with the kid with the antlers. Which again is animal hybrids. They announced they're doing series 3, and that's the last one. But they also announced at the same time, we've already filmed series 3. We're basically in post-production right now. So literally, they brought it out, the new series, last week. Same day as Star Wars. That's why I didn't watch it, because I was playing Star Wars all fucking weekend. Still need to watch it. So they brought that out, and a few days ago they announced, okay, series 2. Series 3, final series. Oh yeah, we've already done it. We're basically just wrapping it up now. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's like a bit random. Like, you're literally announcing it and then basically like, yeah, we're done. There you go. Get ready. We'll have it to you within the next year. So at least we're guaranteed it's coming out next year. That's the only good thing. So I mean, the last series was 2021, I think. So at least we're guaranteeing that it's going to be next year.
Yeah,
So that's the only good thing about them saying that it's basically we're done. It's just post production now, which will take quite a while. Because I mean, that's another thing as well. Another bit of obviously news. Obviously, the writer's strike in America.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Obviously, that Saturday Night Live's been cancelled for the time being. A lot of talk shows have been cancelled because of this. A lot of movies, obviously. Something I know. James Gunn submitted his first draft for Superman not long before, obviously, this strike started happening. Because obviously, a lot of people, if they're putting first drafts or scripts in, they have to do it literally before this happened. Because obviously, this is like a big thing. This is the first one in like 15 years. The last one that happened was the one that fucked over Lost. and Heroes and a lot of these big TV shows. So hopefully it doesn't fuck up a lot of TV shows again. Because there's a lot of TV shows that are coming to an end, so I'm just hoping I haven't been fucked up by it. But thankfully, a lot of them have already filmed, so it's not. It's a case of it should be okay.
Hopefully.
That's all I can think of. Anything else you can think of?
I was looking through games coming out this year. Everything's just like Zelda, Diablo. That's about it. I can't see any big,
And so
massive
that's
games.
the only two I
news.
can think of. Only two that come to mind is Zelda and Diablo, but I can't really pick Zelda up because I haven't really finished the first one.
The only other game that I've seen gameplay for, because they released a beta, was that new Crash game. It looked absolutely dreadful.
Haven't seen it.
It just looks so like bland. It's like a PvP kind of thing, like 3v3. I think it looks so boring. It looks so bad. People are being obviously you got people like content creators on it being like, oh, it's actually not that bad. And it's like it looks dreadful. And like it's so boring to watch. Can't imagine how it's going to be any fun playing it. I was just like, yeah, that's not going to do very well.
If that's everything, then I feel like that wraps everything up. Okay then. Obviously, you can check out this podcast and our previous podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, Amazon Music, you name it, YouTube, as we're clearly on physically. We get to see Connor's backgrounds each time, which is a doorway. Oh, is it a Diablo?
Yeah, I've kind of just kept this one. It's quite nice. Me and the
nice
Gates of Hell.
Nice doorway. Obviously,
boobies just here. Look, boobies.
Kind of can see stuff. I can't really. But yeah, obviously, you can check us out on these platforms. So obviously, you can like and subscribe to the channel where you get to see us gaming every Sunday live. I think we're gonna stick to the 6 p.m. slot. That's probably like a decent slot, really. 6 till 8, isn't it?
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously we started streaming last week. After we're gonna stream this week, but then we were like, nah, fuck it, we'll do it this week. Fuck it. And obviously stream Resident Evil 5 for just under 2 hours. So it went alright. Obviously you streaming live directly to Twitch. Obviously you can find his link for Twitch using the link for any videos that he's involved in. I need to update that actually. And obviously you can check out my stream obviously directly on YouTube. So I'm at the moment doing them directly to YouTube. So we're going to be doing Resident Evil 5 for the next couple of weeks, get through that. Then we're going to jump on Resident Evil 6, if all goes to plan. And then we'll just look at other things we can jump on cart-wise and just games we can just chill to.
Yeah, there's loads of games.
I mean, we could always jump on fucking No Man's Sky at some point.
Chill we can jump on Redfall.
More like Dreadful.
More like Red in the Metacritic scores. Fall.
That was a really bad one. That was terrible. That's as bad as the game.
That was a good one.
But yeah, obviously you can check us out live every Sunday at 6, and obviously this podcast every Friday at 4. Maybe at some point we'll do a live podcast. Obviously it'll be at 6 o'clock. It won't be a 4 o'clock one. And maybe at some point we can look at maybe a live one for special if we can think of something to do.
To get a few people.
Yeah, I feel like we could get a couple of people on. Maybe when Hayden's less off camera and wants to be actually on camera, I can do a live one with her present. If we can try and get Alex on as well as like all 4 of us. Nice 4-way.
Oh, not again.
But anyway, we hope you enjoyed the Chat Cave podcast, and we shall hopefully see you next time.
Peace out.
That's very delayed. Peace out. Bye.